call of the Hogs can be heard all the way to San Francisco.
You're listening to Pod at the Palace with Curtis Wilkerson on Inside Arkansas.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day to those who celebrate. Welcome back to the Pod at the Palace. I'm your host, Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas. Shout out to the Coffee Club, Bean Gang out there this morning. You got that Razorback roast dripping in the cup or what? Because you're going to need it this morning, because we always need a little pick-me-up, and tonight, because it's going to be a late one. It's game day, people. One of just 2 remaining home games left for Razorback basketball. That's crazy to me. 2 more times we get to see this team inside Bud Walton Arena. That's hard to come to terms with, to be honest with you, so hopefully they put on a show. Man, the season's flying by. Texas A&M coming to town, 8 p.m. tip. Boo. Which is disgusting, right? But at least it's in Fayetteville. At least this is no longer a Buzz Williams Texas A&M team. It'll be a fun watch. And you can watch it on ESPN too if you're not going to the game. I think that this is the second biggest game remaining on the schedule for Arkansas. And we'll do the tell of the tape here in a few, but it's pretty simple to me. Yes, the Aggies are good, but there is one team within one game of the Razorbacks in the SEC standings in close striking distance that could sneak up and snipe one of these coveted top 4 seeds for the SEC tournament. It's Texas A&M. A win puts Arkansas firmly in the driver's seat to secure a double bye, especially after some results on Tuesday night. Not going to be easy, but, I mean, what is in this conference? Should be a fun game, a great watch between 2 teams who love to play fast, and I'd love to fill it up on the scoreboard. So let's jump right into it. Today's preview is presented by OZK Insurance, an independent insurance agency who is going to shop a multitude of A-rated carriers to find the best coverage and price just for you. And now they've paired that with this full-service mobile app. With the OZK Insurance app, you can see all your policies under one roof. Whatever it is that you have, home, auto, you name it, you can pay your bills, file claims, request policy changes, or even get new quotes, all from the convenience of your phone. So if you're tired of being stuck with one carrier, chasing down paperwork, having to remember a bunch of logins, passwords, download 4 different apps onto your phone, no. You can do it all from one spot with the OZK Insurance app. Just download the App Store or Google Play. It's a local agency with national level options. One powerful app. That's OZK Insurance. Arkansas, Texas A&M. These 2 teams go way back, right? Arkansas holds a 108-62 all-time advantage in a series that began in 1924. It's been a minute. 62-15 overall, Arkansas is in Fayetteville. 5 in a row they've won against the Aggies in Bud Walton Arena. The only time the Aggies have beaten Arkansas in that building was Mike Anderson's last year. Shout out to Savion Flagg for that game. You guys remember him? I do. It felt like he was there for 15 years. Who was there longer? Was it Savion Flagg or the guy that Arkansas lost to last year in College Station, Wade Taylor IV, who was in his 14th season of college basketball? It feels like Texas A&M has just always had these dudes who are omnipresent, man. They're just always around. They're always there. You can't get rid of them. But this is a brand new team. This is a much, much different Texas A&M team, certainly than what we've grown accustomed to, right? I mean, Buzz Williams is losing a bunch of games in Maryland now. That feels weird. Gone are the days of offensive rebounds and, a million free throws and 3.5-hour games. They say that your next coach is usually the polar opposite of your previous one when you have to, when you let a guy go or whatever, right? Well, that couldn't be more true in this case. Welcome to Bucky McMillan. He's done a really good job in his first season after leaving Samford. Young guy, full of energy, kind of cocky. I like him. Not going to like him tonight, but I like him overall. His style of play, it's a little bit 40 minutes of hellish, I guess. And a lot of it revolves around their defense. Actually, the Aggies are going to press and trap the entire game. And we'll talk about it more. And then they can vary offensively, but they'll push in transition. They shoot a ton of threes. They're analytically driven. They look to score quick, play a bunch of dudes. They'll rotate 11 in and out. It's unique. You don't see it a lot in a league like the SEC, to be honest with you. And, it's entertaining. It's a pain in the butt, but it's beatable. And we'll get into more with our breakdowns in the next segment. But I wanted to share first a couple minutes from assistant coach Chuck Martin, just talking about the Aggies, the unique challenge here, and their style of play. So take a listen for a couple minutes, and then we'll move on.
Coach is doing a really good job at A&M, full court pressure for 40 minutes. He's been really successful this year doing that. And obviously, it's not the first time we've seen coaches over the years. I'm a little bit older, so I've seen coaches over the years play that style of play and have been successful. And he's having a lot of success in his first year in the SEC. He's doing a tremendous job.
You mentioned the pressure, and you guys have been so good at limiting turnovers. I mean, what's kind of the biggest key when it comes to avoiding turnovers against a team that likes to press, likes to turn you over? How do you guys kind of maintain your low turnover rate tomorrow night?
Oh, I think their pressure is completely different from other teams, and they press completely different from other teams. They press on misses, which is unique. Most teams on a made basket or spot throwing, they set up their press out of a timeout after a free throw. When they miss and you rebound the ball, they don't retreat back. They press whoever has the ball. So that's a completely unique way of pressing. So it'll be completely different. We can't have live ball turnovers that lead to open court transition baskets for them. We just got to rebound the ball, be strong with it, find outlets, and then attack. Be who we are. I think the biggest challenge is that it's hard to simulate it. Because most teams don't play that way. Most teams don't press that way. It is a unique way of applying pressure. Again, as I mentioned before, most teams will press on a spot throw-in after made basket, made free throw. They're going to apply pressure on misses. So they miss a shot, you rebound the ball, they're not sprinting back. They're trying to trap and slow you down from getting in transition. So that's hard to simulate in practice because that's not how we play defensively. But we've got some really good guards and we've got some really good wings and we got good synergy and good chemistry. And we just got to take care of the ball and we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're just trying to be ourselves and be super aggressive and, attack the pressure. Hard to pinpoint.
Well, there you go. I would share some words on Arkansas from Bucky McMillan, but there are none. His entire Arkansas preview press conference was about Texas A&M making the NCAA tournament or winning the SEC with about 40 seconds left in the interview. That's not on Bucky, by the way. That's on the media over there. But with about 40 seconds left, he was asked about Acuff, and he literally just said, yeah, he's good. He scored 175 points on Alabama. The end. That was it. There was nothing else there about Arkansas or anything, frankly. He was asked about Coach Cal, of course, and he said Cal recruited one of his high school guys and had to build a whole roster at Arkansas when he got it there, but that was it. Nothing about the game itself. So I was a little bit disappointed in that because I always like to hear what other coaches have to say about, Arkansas in preparation and after games and all that. But sometimes life be like that sometimes. Let's get into our tell of the tape here. Big game, big game for the SEC standings. And we've talked about it quite a bit the last few days, but Florida set at the top of the league. They got a 2-game cushion with 4 to go, and things have shaken up a little bit since Tuesday, since last night. Right now, you've got Alabama and Arkansas tied for second at 10-4. And Bama's got the tiebreaker right now because of the head-to-head. They also have an easy game tonight with Mississippi State at home. Now, Tennessee was tied. It was a 3-way tie in that mix, but Tennessee lost at Missouri. So you have an opportunity to get a full game out in front of them with the tiebreaker because of the head-to-head against Tennessee, and that would be massive. And now you look at Texas A&M. Texas A&M is the only other team within a game. They're at 9-5, Arkansas at 10-4, that could crash the party of the top 4 seeds and snipe a double bye in Nashville from somebody. So a very, very important matchup from that standpoint as Arkansas looks to lock in prime position for the SEC tournament. With that Tennessee loss, if you couple that with Arkansas getting a win over Texas A&M tonight, Razorbacks are in great shape to get one of those top 4 seeds. So, looking at it, the Aggies, they're in the upper 40s in the net, by the way. I stopped putting the net on here because the selection committee doesn't care about it. But we know that the quad 1 and 2 record is something that the selection committee does look at. and wins over the field is something that they value. Well, this is a quad 2 game for Arkansas. Texas A&M, a team that I think is safely in the NCAA tournament and will remain that way unless they just completely fall off of the map here. So an important game for the resume for Arkansas. We also think about, Arkansas's in that battle. Can they get up to a 4 seed? Are they going to be a 5? How do they fit into the resume rankings with some of these other schools in the SEC that are right around them? Well, Tennessee just took an L, and that's the team that you felt like it just kind of snuck up and passed you. In fact, yesterday morning we did the resume war between Arkansas and Tennessee. Well, I bet if we did it this morning, it'd look a little bit different, wouldn't it? So an opportunity here for Arkansas to, they're just jockeying for position. So just, jump right over the Vols. I say that Texas A&M is an NCAA tournament team. I wouldn't call them a lock because if they lose out, they won't make it. I don't think they might. Would that be 19-12, 9-9? They might, but their non-conference is weak. The Aggies are in very good shape heading into the final weeks here of the regular season. Winning on the road at Arkansas would probably punch that ticket and bump them up a seed line and all those things. Arkansas on the flip side, it's all about hold and serve, right? Adding depth to that resume and seeing what others do around you. I think the Razorbacks need a couple of these metrics to bump back up. Arkansas actually dropped in KenPom. I've got it at 18. I should have updated my graphic before I started recording because they actually dropped after Tennessee lost. Virginia passed everybody, and Tennessee didn't really budge outside of that after losing a game to Missouri. Arkansas beats Missouri. Let's think about this for a second. Arkansas beats Missouri, and they dropped a spot in KenPom. Missouri beats Tennessee, Arkansas drops a spot in KenPom. Make it make sense, whatever. Doesn't matter. Arkansas needs some of these to bump back up just a little bit. They're in great shape, but if we're talking about getting to a 4 seed, if you look at these metrics, that's what's holding Arkansas back right now, because comparatively speaking to these other teams, Arkansas might have better wins. They might have some other things going for them, but the predictive metrics are holding them back. Got to get those bumped up a little bit. And it's going to be tough in a game like this where you're projected to win by a wide margin against a team that scores a ton of points. I think this might be a closer game than the analytics expect. So we'll see what it winds up looking like. Texas A&M they've had an interesting year. Pretty sluggish out of the gates. They lost to Oklahoma State, lost to UCF, lost to SMU. Those aren't horrible losses, but basically, if you look at it, those are the teams that Vanderbilt beat and got quad 1 wins, right? And Texas A&M was the opposite there. But then they got red hot. And the next thing you know, you look up and they're 17-4 overall. They're in sole possession of first place in the SEC at 7-1, but they're unranked still because of that non-conference schedule. A lot of folks felt like it would catch up to them with the schedule kind of, flipping, kicking up a notch or 10 in the back half. Well, those who felt that way were right. Texas A&M dropped 4 in a row. It was to Alabama, Florida, Missouri, and Vanderbilt. A couple of those games they got beat up on. A couple were really close, but they kind of came back down to earth. Now, they did pick up a pair of wins last week to get back on track, but it wasn't easy on them by any means. A 3-point home win over Ole Miss and a 4-point road win at Oklahoma. So they've done some good work this season. They won at Auburn. They took Tennessee to double overtime on the road. They won at Texas. They won at Georgia. 3-point loss at Alabama. So they're very, very capable of coming in and giving Arkansas hell. But they've definitely been laboring more the last few weeks. So we'll see how they look on Wednesday night. Since February 1st, according to our friends over at Torvik, Arkansas has been the 7th most efficient team in the country, and Texas A&M over that same time frame is 55th. So there you have it, which is probably a good transition here into our side-by-side comparisons. Let me go ahead and pull up the graphic for you guys. That way you can take a look at it while we kind of talk through some things here. We'll start with, offensively for Texas A&M. They are not a one-trick pony. I hope everybody understands that. If they're forcing turnovers, they're really going to push in transition, take advantage of numbers. They'll gun a bunch of threes, and they put flurries on you in a hurry. I remember the Auburn game. They were down by, 16 or something. They had an 11-0 run, like 23 seconds. Well, it's because Auburn was kicking the ball around the gym, turning it over, and it was just leading to transition rhythm threes. And you cannot do that against this team. So a lot of their offense is predicated by their defense. But as far as offense is concerned, they share it really well. But there is a level of first shot over best shot with them. They try to get it off quick. But if they don't have advantage breaks, if they don't have numbers, they're going to settle into half-court sets and run a lot of action as well. They're not like Bama, where it just becomes like a drive and kick fest. They'll actually run some action, some plays, some sets to create, different looks that they're looking for there. Interestingly enough, on the season, you think about Buckyball and, them playing fast and everything like that. But on the year as a whole and in SEC play, Arkansas actually plays at a faster adjusted tempo. I found it interesting that Texas A&M plays the way that they do, but they only rank 156 in the country in fast break points per game, 11 per game in the fast break. I think part of it's because they create turnovers in the backcourt, so that doesn't become fast breaks if you're not out in the open floor. So maybe that's some of it there, but the tempo aspect of it, I found to be interesting there. So it's a little bit different. The style of play is a little bit different. It's going to take more out of you in ways that you're not used to, but in terms of getting up and down and everything, it's not going to be anything that Arkansas hasn't seen before. I know everybody's kind of automatically worried about, the numbers and the depth and everything like that. I mean, Arkansas went to Alabama with 7 and they played a double overtime game. I didn't see any fatigue. I saw them running out of bodies in that one. I think they're going to be fine from that standpoint, especially at home. A&M, they prefer threes. They're second to only Alabama when it comes to percentage of their total shots coming from three. So 47.3% of their total shots are from three-point range. And that's a lot. They're pretty reliant on shooting well when it comes to scoring heavy doses of points, though. Almost 40% of their points in SEC play come from beyond the arc. It's also the second most in the league. You know who's first, right? 42.4% of their points come from 2, and that's next to last in the conference. And then 18.3% from the free throw line, that's 14th. So they do lean heavily on the 3 ball. 11.2 made threes per game on the season. That's 9th in the country. They're shooting at 35.5% in SEC play. That's pretty good. Arkansas is a little bit higher than that at 35.9%. Not as much volume, though, for the Razorbacks. Texas A&M, this is an undersized team. They aren't very good on the offensive glass, but you got to understand that there's a lot of long rebounds because they shoot so many jumpers, and they do a good job of spreading out defenses, so they'll get some that you don't expect them to. So it's another game where the guards are going to need to rebound for Arkansas. I feel good about that with Billy. I feel good about that with Malik Thomas. Darius Acuff has shown he's not afraid to stick his nose in there too. But, another part of their offense that goes overlooked, they have so many shooting threats that the paint tends to become wide open. And there's a lot of space for a guy like Rashawn Agee, who we're going to talk about here shortly, to operate in there. Driving lanes too, right? But I think teams, as they've been struggling a little bit here recently, I think what teams have done is adjusted defensively to they're running these guys off the line and challenging their smaller guards to go in there and finish on the trees. Texas A&M is 299th nationally in block percentage against. So Trevin, Malik Ewan, Billy, Arkansas's guards are pretty good about that. There are going to be some opportunities to return to sender on some of these layups. Like Chuck Martin mentioned, that they're a deep team. Bucky plays 9 guys double-digit minutes every game, and they have another 2 who get at least 1 rotation per game. So they are 11 deep. And he has to do that to maintain the type of pressure and intensity that they try to play with. They're second in the country in bench points because of that, by the way. You'll see a lot of 4-guard looks. It's going to be interesting for Arkansas matchup-wise, but a lot of 4-guard looks. Goes both ways, but defensively, it's going to be interesting to see how they match Trevin up, for example. because he's going to need to move his feet and use his length. For Arkansas, I think there are two main things to look at here from a defensive standpoint. One, can you run them off the arc and then limit those threes without it looking like a layup drill against your interior defense? It's going to be very important. And then two, can you stay out of foul trouble guarding a team like this? Now, if you're looking for reasons to be optimistic there, Texas A&M, not the best by any means by way of finishing and scoring around the rim, and their free throw rate is one of the lowest in the SEC. So it's going to come down to discipline, focus, and getting the job done for the Razorbacks there. On the flip side, I'm super interested to see, how this goes with Arkansas's offense against the Texas A&M press. Chuck Martin was right. This is very hard to simulate in practice, especially when you don't have a roster. So don't be surprised if it looks that way the first couple minutes until they settle in. Sometimes you just need to see it. When a team, the pressure is a little bit different. You have to feel it before you can adjust and settle in. The only time I can think of where the only team I can recall that really tried to press and trap Arkansas anywhere near the way that Texas A&M will was Georgia. Now, that was a road game, maybe the turning point of the season where these guys started to get serious, but they did not handle that pressure well at all on that day. 18 turnovers from Arkansas in that game. 18. For a frame of reference, Arkansas has 17 turnovers in its last 3 games combined. Then that includes a double overtime game at Alabama. So I think it's safe to chalk that up as a very uncharacteristic performance, seeing as for the entire season, Arkansas is number 1 in the country in turnover percentage. They just don't do it. Now, on defense, Texas A&M, they're 51st in the country in turning teams over, and they're 7th, so middle of the pack in the SEC. It's not crazy. It's not like they're out there turning teams over 25 times a game. It's just what they do is different. And again, it's hard to prepare for, but it's not always super chaotic and disruptive. I think the bigger part of the challenge for Arkansas is going to be making the adjustment and realizing that you might just have to go about things a little bit differently than you normally do. I wasn't overly optimistic about this game a few weeks ago. We've seen A&M come back down to earth. We've seen Arkansas, I think, get a lot better. But I was concerned about this matchup. And so for the record, I think it's still very tricky, but the way Arkansas has played recently and with how they handled that type of game at Alabama, I'm a lot more confident in how they're going to be able to handle this. But to my point, this is a game where you've got to maintain focus for 40 minutes. You can't get comfortable if you're ahead. You can't get casual if you're tired. You can't breathe when you get a stop or a rebound because Texas A&M is not going to let their foot off the gas on defense. That is their identity. They go 110 miles an hour on defense and pressing and trapping nonstop. And when guys get tired, they bring 5 more in. I thought Chuck Martin brought up a really good point about how most teams, he's right about this. They'll press and they'll trap after a made basket or after a free throw. But the Aggies are one of the few teams in the country that they will miss a shot, and then instead of running back on defense, they immediately bring a trap and press you right then. So the awareness, the focus, it has to remain high. How many times have Nick Pringle and Malik Ewan grabbed a rebound and immediately gotten tied up for a jump ball or had it poked free? Too many. So, they got to chin it and get rid of it. Arkansas's guards, think about how the Razorbacks like to fly up the floor. They get a rebound, they turn and go. And that's fine. They just have to know in this game that, when they turn to push it up the floor, they're going to have 2 bodies running at them. So you got to be ready to get rid of it and get it to the next guy and keep on moving. As good as Arkansas is in the open floor, if the focus is there, they're going to have a lot of 3-on-2s, 2-on-1 breaks, a lot of opportunities, and it should be a dunk fest, honestly. Arkansas is going to have at least 4 capable ball handlers in the game at all times, 5 when Malik Ewan is on the floor. So It's not easy. It's something that you got to stay locked in for. It's a grind for a 40-minute basketball game. But at home, if Arkansas is in attack mode, I mean, a top 5 offense in the country that's third nationally in fast break points in a game that's trying to be sped up by design. I mean, I think theoretically they could talk buckyball out of doing what it wants to do. This definitely strikes me as one of those games where Arkansas might shoot a real low volume of threes, but you look up at the end of the day and they've kind of feasted around the rim. Texas A&M doesn't have a whole bunch by way of rim protection. They are vulnerable on the offensive glass. If Arkansas is poised and aggressive, this should be a big night for the offense. Now, the pathway to problems is if they come out like they did in that Georgia game, for example, and they look overwhelmed, or if they're back on their heels because they're facing a little bit of pressure, or if they get into foul trouble and then they're being forced to not be as aggressive as they want to be. And I also think like the mental part of it in a game like this, there's a little bit of the Alabama factor. What I mean by that is, to where Texas A&M, they might hit you with a flurry, right? Like they hit a 3, they turn you over, they hit another one. And within like 4 seconds, it's a 6-0 swing or an 8-0 run or something like that. Arkansas struggled with those this year. All of a sudden it turns into a 10-0 run or a 12-0 run. I thought they did a great job in Tuscaloosa of understanding, hey, it's a long game. Next possession, one at a time. It's a high possession game. You don't have to start forcing it up there or trying to get it all back in one possession. I thought their poise and their patience was really, really good in that game at Alabama, and you would hope that would be the case here. Okay, let's get into our position battles here and talk a little bit of personnel. The starters for Texas A&M, they've been consistent all year, and they're all going to play over 20 minutes for the most part. But since Texas A&M plays so many bodies, I definitely want to take some extra time when we get into the bench conversation and try to get you guys familiar with them as well. I think it's also worth noting, and this is no shade at all at Texas A&M's players. They've got good players, but the Aggies are more of a product of their system. Like, they are a team. So the matchup advantages, if you're watching on YouTube and you're looking at the graphic right now, it looks lopsided. So you might think, oh, this is going to be a butt whooping. But that hasn't stopped them from having a really, really good season because the way that they play is so unique. And, of course, I had to wait to record until that stupid SEC availability report came out. And because it feels like for the entire month of February, there's been a surprise of some sort on every single one of these, for better or worse. There was not in this game. Carter Knox out. I think that's, it's just going to be that way the rest of the season here. And Isaiah Sealy was listed as probable. Makes sense. He was available for the last game. The way Chuck Martin was talking about it, it seemed like he was still kind of working his way back to full health. So we'll see what that looks like, but you got all your main guys. No surprises here. Billy, like we said, is fine. Good to go. Acuff playing. Is he 100%? I don't know. We'll see. But let's maybe start there. At the point guard position, Darius Acuff versus Jakari Lane. Lane has started every SEC game for the Aggies. In fact, this 5-man group of theirs, they've all started all 14 SEC games. He plays about 25 minutes a night. He's a transfer from North Alabama. A smaller guard, 6 foot, 180 pounds. He's averaging 7 points per game. He's not a big scorer. He doesn't take that many shots, really. Like 5 or so shots a game on average. Half of those are from 3, where he's right at 30% on the year. So he is not one of their guys that's a knockdown type of shooter. They've got several really good shooters, and we'll talk about him. He can make one, but he's not a burner like some of those other dudes. But here's what he does do. He's got a 3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio on the season. He's very, very quick. He's a pest in their press. He really gets it up the floor when they're pushing it. But from a scoring standpoint, he's more of a table setter, really. He hasn't scored in double figures in a month. He had some big assist games early in SEC play. As I'm looking at it, 9 on Tennessee, 6 in Mississippi State, 7 against South Carolina. But in their last 5 games, he only has 8 total assists. And he struggled a lot during their 4-game skid, to the point to where Pop Isaacs, who's their best bench player, one of their better players on the team, has started playing more minutes coming off the bench. Because if you look at it, Lane played 11 minutes against Ole Miss in the midweek last week. And then we played 19 at Oklahoma on Saturday. Now, as for Acuff, look, man, he's allowed to take his left ankle out of that fountain of youth no sooner than 7:57 p.m. Take it out, pat it dry with a towel, put a sock on, lace him up, go play. Right? I mean, seriously, eyes on how he looks out there, We know he got banged up that left ankle, in the Auburn game, but then he proceeded to kill Auburn the rest of the night. And, then he went and dropped half 100 on Alabama. It wasn't really until the short turnaround against Missouri where I thought it really started to show. He didn't look great down the stretch of that game. But he's had a couple days completely off now. I mean, he had Saturday night, all day Sunday, all day Monday, very light yesterday. They don't play until 8 o'clock tonight. So he's had a while. I imagine he's been doing a ton of therapy, getting a bunch of rehab, a bunch of treatment, and hope to see him with some pop back in his step for this game. I'm sure he's been back in that boot, and that boot is designed to just take pressure off of the joint. It limits that movement in the ankle. So he's probably going to go get his 20 regardless. But if he's still moving around like he was on Saturday, I'll start coming around to the give up on the season squad who wants to set him down until the NCAA tournament. Not really, but I would be more open to limiting those minutes some after Florida. If he's not moving around too well after getting several days of quality rest there. How Acuff comes out, I think, is going to go a long way towards how the tone is set in this basketball game. Because he was the prime offender at Georgia. When Arkansas, they just look completely overwhelmed by their little press over there. And that kind of stuff is going to be on steroids tonight with what A&M does. So I would hope that Acuff is licking his chops the way that he should be. You want to send 2 at me? Okay, fine. I will split your double teams, and I will get 16 assists throwing lobs. You're guarding me straight up with your little guards? Okay, fine. I'll drive right through them, just like I did Tyler Tanner and Aiden Holloway and anybody else. But, ball security is going to be the key to the game. If Arkansas is making live ball turnovers, it's going to be way more interesting than it needs to be. But if they take care of it, they're going to be fine. Acuff had 4 turnovers against Georgia in that game down in Athens. Since then, he has only had 1 game with more than 2. So if that pattern holds tonight, Arkansas should be in business. Advantage Acuff by a mile, even if he's out there at 80% or something. At the 2, Malik Thomas versus Marcus Hill. I like Marcus Hill. He's a good player. I don't like him in this matchup. Let me be clear. I like him as a player. He's tough as nails. He's about DJ's size, maybe a little bit shorter. He's like about 6'3", but non-shooter. He's made 15 threes this season, only 8 in SEC play. But he's probably, in fact, he definitely is their best downhill guard. In fact, outside of their big man, Hill has the most attempts on the team at the rim, and he finishes at the best rate. So he's going to be one Arkansas needs to keep in front, out of the paint, and make sure that they're stopping ball on him in transition. He has shot nearly twice as many free throws as any of their other guards. So he's a nice player, double-figure scorer on the season. I think that means a little bit more for Texas A&M. I know they get a lot of possessions, but when you play 11 guys and 9 of them are playing double-digit minutes and stuff, a 10-point scorer might be a 14-point scorer on a different team, I think he's one of their better backcourt defenders as well. So he's a good player. But, man, this really feels like a Malik Thomas type of game to me. If you need someone to go off script and improvise if a play breaks down or a team's trying to pressure you and throw you off, nobody better than Malik Thomas. He's probably going to handle the ball a lot because Acuff is going to have to be passing out of the traps, and I'm fine with that. I mean, Leak's ball security has been on point too. And we mentioned the importance of Arkansas staying in attack mode in this game, and that includes Leak. But, man, If Arkansas breaks the press and you got Acuff coming up the middle of the floor, I'm thinking that, Malik Thomas is a guy who could get a lot of kick out corner, just spotting up, kick out corner threes in this game. Like the potential is there for him to hit 4 or 5 or more. We mentioned the long boards coming off the rim from all the threes that Texas A&M is going to be shooting. I love the way that Leak has been rebounding. 8 rebounds per game over his last 3. That's a development. That's major. So I would imagine he's going to be, sticking his nose in there again. Got to stay out of foul trouble and on the floor. That's been a thing a little bit here. Although I will say last game against Missouri, only 1 foul in 35 minutes, and he was playing hard out there. So he's the better player in this matchup. I think it's a good one, but I'm really intrigued to see what Malik's able to do in this game tonight. At the 3, Billy Richmond versus just a familiar name, like Rylan Griffin, still hooping. This is a very resurgent season for Rylan Griffin. Give the kid his flowers. He's figured it out. If you guys remember, he was pretty darn good his second year at Alabama. He hit like 73s, shot it really well. He was a big part of a really good team there. Transferred to Kansas, and he was a big-time get for them. Him and A.J. Storr were the 2 transfer prizes, and it just didn't work out for either of them. Yeah, Rylan never got it going. He didn't do anything against Arkansas. Arkansas put the clamps on him in that tournament game. But he's having a nice year for the Aggies. A full-time starter for him. He's found it from 3 again. He's shooting 42% on good volume. He's got over 50 makes. He's been playing really well defensively. He leads them in steals. So I'm happy for him. He was a guy who kind of lingered in the portal for a while. And we were looking at Arkansas's roster. And he was one that I was thinking, man, why does Arkansas take a flyer on him and get him in here? But he winds up at Texas A&M, has way more opportunity, playing for Bucky on his first team down there, and he's taking advantage of it. It's been a little bit of a roller coaster ride for him, though, in SEC play, especially here recently. He had 5 really strong games to open things up, but since then, his point totals have been 5, 17, 7, 17, 5, 6, 14. So it's basically like one really good game, one off, one good, one off, one good, one off. It's coming off of a strong performance, so maybe Arkansas can hold him down a little bit. You cannot let him be the guy that comes into Bud Walton and goes, 4 of 6 or 5 of 8 or something from 3 on you. Now, the problem for Rylan Griffin, though, is that there might not be a wing in the country playing better than Billy Richmond is right now. So hot right now. Big game Bill. I mean, he's a man on a mission. Is he going to make it a 4th straight game with 20 or more points? Maybe. I don't know, but I'm not going to doubt the man. What I do know is Texas A&M better not let Billy Richmond be the release valve in the middle against that press, because if they do, he's going to put some poor Aggie on a poster, potentially a milk carton. Nobody thrives in chaos like Billy Richmond. And that is exactly what Texas A&M is trying to create. So it feels like this could be another good game for Billy. He doesn't have to worry about, plays and reads and, which cut to make off of a screen and where to beat. No, you just go out there and hoop. I don't anticipate that the Aggies are going to back off of him and dare him to shoot jumpers like Alabama and Missouri did, which he didn't mind doing and was knocking him down. But I'm guessing that they're going to pressure him and send 2 at him just like everybody else. I'm not sure how well it's going to work out for him. The one thing to watch would be the turnover number with Billy. He's been so much better this year from that standpoint about not getting, it was almost like he was moving faster than the ball sometimes out there, a little bit careless with it. It's worth noting at least that he joined Acuff in the 4 turnover club at Georgia against that pressure they were showing. And he did have 3 turnovers on Saturday. So I can point that out. And then I can also point out that those are his only multi-turnover games in all of SEC play. So all 12 other games, he's had 1 or fewer, 1 or none. I like Billy. I would pick Billy Richmond over LeBron James right now in a matchup battle. At the 4, Trevin Brazile versus Ruben Dominguez. This is the key matchup in this game, in my opinion, because how it works out for it's going to dictate how both teams play lineup-wise the rest of the game. Dominguez is a great shooter. It's a little bit skewed. He's 41% on the year, and he's got more makes than like A-Cup and Leak do. So he can knock that thing down. Now he's just 34% in SEC play. It's a little bit skewed because he had 17 of them in 2 games. He had 2 games where he had 10 and 7 early in the year. And then he had one stretch early in SEC play. He had a 4-game stretch where he hit 4 in each game. But since that time, Dominguez made multiple threes twice in 10 games. And he's 6 of 24. He's 25% in his last 6. So he's Steph Curry out there, but he can be on a given night. If he's lighting it up, I feel like Arkansas is going to wind up going 3 guards. They're going to play Billy at the 4 and probably TB at the 5. But if Arkansas is able to contain that matchup and then Trevin is hurting them on the boards, they might be forced to play 2 bigs, which they do a little bit, but they don't want to do it a lot. It's a big advantage if Arkansas forces them into playing another big man with AG. You know, the flip side, I don't know how offensive rebounding isn't a super heavy emphasis for TB in this game. He's going to be defended by a guard, and he's going to be 3 inches taller and have 6 inches of wingspan and vertical over anyone else out there. So I know we talk about it all the time. It doesn't really happen, but I really hope that Trevin is all over the offensive glass. He could feast in there in a game like this. I hope we see him attacking the rim or, operating that dunker spot. The cuts that he makes from the baseline, what they call them the Clyde cuts, as opposed to just kind of chilling out there waiting to take threes that he hasn't really been making at a high clip in SEC play. There are some games where Arkansas needs that out of him. This is not one of them. Sometimes you need it for floor spacing to drag another defender out of the paint. With Texas A&M, it don't matter. They're going to drag themselves out of the paint because they're applying so much pressure. I think this is a double-double incoming for Trevin. I feel good about that. But the one thing that could hamper him is he's going to be drug out on the perimeter defensively. Again, probably guarding a really good shooter, and that is going to be the make or break for his night, in my opinion. Now, advantage TB because he's a more well-rounded impact player on both ends of the floor. But if Dominguez catches fire and he suddenly becomes, January Tyler Nickel out there, that spells trouble for the Razorbacks. At the 5, you got Nick Pringle versus Rashawn G. It's the one spot on the floor with the starters. I feel like Texas A&M has a pretty significant advantage. And it's not a Pringle issue so much as Rashawn's just a baller. He's been incredible for the Aggies this season. Eric Musselman has got to be in shambles for letting this dude go. I would have never thought that the head of the snake for a buckyball team would be the center, but it's true. Leading scorer, nearly 17 a game, 9 rebounds a night, 2 assists, a steal and a block per game. He's all over the place. They put him at the top of their press. So, you inbound it, and whoever's defending the guard, and then AG will set the trap. And then by the time you get it across half court, he is sprinted back under the rim to protect the paint. And he plays so hard. And he's aggressive and he's physical. He's got good footwork. He's crafty. And I think he's also in a great situation offensively because they've got really good spacing because they have all those guards who can shoot it. And that gives him a ton of space where they can throw it in there. And he's got room to operate one-on-one, face up and go at you. Or he's got, an open lane to roll if he's in the pick and roll, if he's setting a ball screen. Now, he'll take some threes, but you live with that. He's a 20% shooter out there. Fine. You want to sit out there and jack threes, be my guest. But again, he's a tough cover. Very, very strong. And, it's got kind of that old school footwork pivot game, goes over either shoulder, gets to the free throw line a lot. I'm worried about this matchup, folks. Because Arkansas has been getting cooked by SEC bigs of all shapes and sizes, and it's been amplified recently. Mark Mitchell got him. Aiden Sherrill got him. Keyshawn Murphy got him. The list goes on and on. And you got a bunch of dudes having career games against that Razorback front court right now. Something's got to give. Something's got to give there. A lot of you guys have asked if Malik Ewan might get the start since, Pringle told Cal basically to do it in the second half against Missouri. Start him, not me. Maybe. I wouldn't rule it out. I don't mind Nick starting, actually, because it's going to be a platoon anyway, I think. But I look at it from two standpoints, and so I'm a little bit torn. I think doing that could be a way to reward or encourage Malik Ewan for stepping up and playing a really good game. Like, keep him motivated, keep him engaged, keep the energy positive, and that's a way to do that. Because when he's rolling, Arkansas is a lot better. Like they're gonna have their warts around the rim defensively and everything, but Ewan is a better shot blocker. He is also a better rebounder, and he's a superior offensive player. So I get it. I also like having that scoring pop off the bench right now. It was a little bit different for me when you had Malik Thomas coming off the bench and Billy Richmond coming off the bench. But now the main offensive pop you have is Malik Ewan coming in there. So, I don't know. Regardless, like, the chances are AG is going to have Pringle fouled out in like 10 minutes. I mean, hopefully not, because Pringle's the best defensive matchup for him. And this is the type of team that he should be able to rebound against, but we'll see. I think Ewan could have a monster game, though, if he's locked in. He'd get this dude in foul trouble. He could own the offensive glass against them, and I think he's better to be able to handle it, catch it midcourt and turn and make a play. So I bet he winds up playing a lot. As far as the benches are concerned, where Arkansas, they've got the edge, obviously, in 4 of the 5 position battles here. I think A&M has a pretty clear edge on the bench at this point. There was a time where I said it's going to be very hard to get me to choose someone else's bench off of over Arkansas, because Malik Thomas was trending towards 6th man of the year, and Ewan was coming on strong, and Billy's just Mr. Everything energy. They had a good thing going. And now you know what Arkansas's bench looks like? A bench, right? It's not bad. Man, look, DJ Wagner, a 3rd-year SEC guard who's averaged double figures for 2 years and played 100 games of college basketball, a veteran. That's a good piece to have coming in with your second unit. Ewan, who we talked about with the offenses he's able to provide, and can almost serve as a starter for you minutes wise. That's a good guy to have in there. And then eyes on Isaiah Sealy, probable for this one, but Arkansas, I think, needs him not just available, but on the floor. Getting Carter back's a pipe dream. It ain't happening. So Cal, I think he has to get Sealy integrated in some way. I know that he had the 2 games on the road swing there, and I think that's encouraging. It doesn't have to be a major role. I just think a regular one. You need this to be an 8-man rotation. 10 minutes even can take a lot of pressure off those other 7 guys. So I hope that we see him and that Cal continues to grow trust in him down the stretch. We'll see what it looks like. Because I know if you're in tight games, like A&M's, that's a tournament team, man. And they play a unique style. Florida, one of the best teams in the country on the road. Like, I understand. It's like, man, I know I got 70 of these guys that I really, really just trust at a higher level. It's got to be baptism by fire a little bit. At least give him one look. He's not going to cost you the game in 90 seconds or something. Like he's played enough now to where I think they should be able to trust him for a rotation and see what it looks like. I just hope that he does it organically and that, like, his hand's not forced because Billy and Trevin get 2 fouls with 7 minutes left in the first half. You know what I mean? So we'll see. But I really, really do feel strongly that they need to use him to make this an 8-man, type of rotation like you had going on the entire season. And yeah, most guys are still going to be playing a few more minutes than they were before, like when Carter was in there. But if you think about it, most nights, if you looked at the box score, you would see, oh, wow, Billy only played 15 minutes in this game. Or, oh, yeah, man, Carter didn't play too much. Or, 14 minutes from DJ? There was always one guy from that 8 that played less than you thought. And so if that's just Isaiah Sealy who's giving you 10 to 12 instead, okay, fine. So we'll see. A&M has some names to know off the bench for sure. It starts with Pop Isaacs. He was at Texas Tech a couple years. He was playing really well at Creighton last year. Got injured. He was committed to Houston. And when they got their guard back, Milo Suzanne back, then he decommitted. He wound up at Texas A&M. He's been really good for him. He comes in, brings instant pop off the bench, knockdown shooter. And he will come in and he's one of those guys, kind of like Malik Thomas, where first touch of the game, he doesn't care. He'll put it up there. Zach Clements is another big who he's really been coming along lately. 6'11". He was at Kansas and barely played, but he's averaging about 8 a game in SEC play for Texas A&M. A stretch big who can knock down threes, awful rebounder at his size. He's shown some skill offensively, but he's a guy that, like they would attack him with Ewan or, try to drag him out, get him in ball screens, and has not been a very good rebounder for him. Josh Holloway is a guard that they'll bring in. Ali Diba is another one. Federico is there. He lives in our nightmares. Absolutely lives in our nightmares after last year. He was the big for Texas Tech that, would come in there and spell JT Toppin from time to time. And he was in that play where they get 6 offensive rebounds in 1 possession. And that was like the beginning of the end for Arkansas in that game. So anyway, hey, let's take a look at our best bets from our partners over at SARACEN. It's Arkansas's #1 sports betting app. New users, remember, all you got to do, download the app, use code INSIDEAR250 to take advantage of their no strings attached promo, where you bet your first $25 and you get $250 in bonus bets. The line opened at let's see, Arkansas -8.5. So it closed at 9.5 against Missouri. I think it opened at like 10.5 or 11.5. The over/under set at 170.5, so not quite on Arkansas Alabama level. Let's see. The first 2 double R props that I looked for in there, just thinking about the way that this game is going to be played. I see Arkansas over 5.5 dunks, Texas A&M under 5.5 at +115. Love that. Because Arkansas is going to have lob attempts. There are going to be times where they break that press, and they're going to be able to throw it down in there, and they're going to be playing in the open floor. So I like them for the over. And Texas A&M, I don't know. Matter of fact, let me look it up right now. I'm doing some assuming here, and I shouldn't do that. But my guess is if it ain't Rashawn Agee, they are not dunking the basketball too often over there at Texas A&M. Let's see if I'm right. Yeah, I'm pretty much right. 16 of 17 dunks from Agee. And, the other 2 big. So for Federico, Jamie Vinson, they got 14 and 16 respectively. But all their guys who really play, Holloway's got 3. Clements, the other big, has 3. Rylan Griffin has 4. A bunch of these guys have zeros. They have 57 dunks total on the season. Let's just look real quick and see if Arkansas has taken the lead in dunks yet. Team totals. No, not quite. Georgia has extended their advantage. They're at 167 and Arkansas's at 160. Florida's at 156, so they're close there too. Nobody else is within 20. Crazy stuff. You love to see it. Anyway, so I like that one. That's at plus 115. Another one, Arkansas over 47.5 paint points and Texas A&M under 33.5. That's at plus 200. I like Arkansas over. I think they're going to be very much in attack mode. So that feels very doable to me. The 33.5 for A&M is the one that gives me some pause. We know how much they rely on the threes. We talked about the percentages and everything earlier. You still have to defend the paint, and that's one area where Arkansas has struggled a little bit. So maybe not. I think I like the dunk one better. I like Malik Thomas over 18.5 points and 6.5 rebounds at plus 550. That's a big return, and a lot of possessions in this game. I think his points are going to be up there, and with the way he's been rebounding it, right? Like we said, 8 rebounds a game over the last 3. That one feels live to me. Arkansas over 5.5 blocked shots, and Texas A&M under 3.5 at plus 275. Arkansas blocks the most shots in the SEC. A&M gets their shot blocked about as much as anybody in the SEC, and they don't have a whole lot of rim protection. In fact, if it's not AG, they ain't blocking it, and he's averaging like a block per game. And Arkansas doesn't get their shot blocked. So, at plus 275, I actually like that one quite a bit. I didn't see the player specials weren't up yet, but I know they'll have Trevin Brazil double-double on there. A-Cuff double-double on there. He's going to score 10. If he's breaking the press and hitting guys in stride, this is a double-double candidate type of game for him. So eyes on that. Final score prediction. Ken Pom has it 89-81. Arkansas. Torvik has it 91-83. So 8 points and 8 points. I'm guessing that means BPI is going to have it around 5. Let's go look real quick. Yeah, 5.5. It's always lower. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a little bit like the Missouri game. Different styles of play, but kind of the way it played out on the scoreboard of, going to be some tense and uncomfortable moments, but I do think by the final stretch that Arkansas will be able to get a little bit of control there. I'll probably meet in the middle. I'm going to say 90-83. Arkansas gets this one done. So you take a win any way you can get it at this point with, the way the standings and everything's showing. Need to get it done at home. And if Arkansas walks out of there with a dub, they're going to be looking pretty darn good going into the final 3 games of the season and setting up a big-time showdown this weekend at Florida. We'll talk about that when we get there. Your hate watch. Whenever you're not watching Arkansas, here's what you need to be checking out. Suck it up, Buttercups. You need to be Texas fans. Texas needs to beat Florida. If Arkansas is going to have an opportunity to win the SEC, and they're still in that picture, one of 2 things has to happen. Either Texas needs to beat them in Austin, or Kentucky needs to beat them in Rupp. Frankly, I think Texas has a better chance to do it. Kentucky looks stinky right now. They played with their food against South Carolina and were fortunate to win that game. I don't know what's going on over there with them. What's going on with Auburn, by the way? Just got destroyed at Oklahoma. They looked uninterested. Looked like they didn't care. So, there's so much talk about Auburn from the selection committee like what's the selection committee going to do? Oh, they've got such a difficult strength of schedule with committees, might put them in there anyway. But you know what? If you watch them, you would wonder whether or not they even want to go to the tournament. They look like they don't like each other. Stephen Pearl's body language sucks. Like, that's just not a team I would want to put in the field. They're 2 games over 500 right now. I mean, I think they've got LSU and Ole Miss on the schedule, so they're going to win a couple more. They close out Alabama. They'll probably lose that one. They lose their first game in the SEC tournament. They're 17-15. Send their butts to the NIT, man. I don't know what's going on with them. Anyway, hate watch. Georgia over Vanderbilt. feels like the play on the surface because you're seed battling there, right? You're seed battling with Tennessee. They just lost. You're seed battling with Vanderbilt. So if they lose to Georgia, you start feeling pretty good about where you're at. But if Vanderbilt wins, then you'll be able to keep Vandy as a quad 1A for you. So I don't know. There's benefits to both sides. I just assume they go ahead and lose, and Arkansas pass them. Josh Hubbard, he needs to beat Alabama on the road. He's not going to, but he needs to. And then outside the SEC, I think UConn going ahead and getting some revenge on St. John's would go a long way as well. St. John's is kind of, it's like SEC City and then the Johnnies on the 5 line right now. So get those dudes out of there. And Arkansas is going to be in a pretty good spot. I saw Virginia won their game against NC State. They're on the 4 line. Texas Tech beat Cincinnati. They're on the 4 line. So some of those teams that are kind of right there with you or a little bit ahead are probably going to stay that way headed into the weekend. And for Arkansas, it's just about hold and serve. And then you can really make your move potentially if you go do something crazy on Saturday. So going to get out of here for now. Make sure you tune in to the Pot the Palace post-game show this evening, immediately following the game between the Razorbacks and the Aggies. It's been Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas on the Pot the Palace. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the game. We'll see you tonight.